Hold hands and close your eyes. It's midnight, and you're listening to the Ghost Story Guys. Welcome to the Ghost Story Guys. I'm Brennan Storr.
I'm Ian Gibbs.
And this is the show where we talk about spooks, specters, and all the other things watching us from the shadows beyond the campfire. Some conversations only make sense after the sun is set, and this is most definitely one. Thanks for tuning in. This is episode 23, and we're coming to you from that tiny mountain cabin you dream about but can never quite reach. How you doing, Ian?
I'm doing well, Brennan. How are you?
I am good, thank you. Back from the wedding and happy to be home.
Excellent. And how was that?
It was a wedding. It was lovely. There was a lovely church, a reasonably quick ceremony. There was some concern because they had mentioned there were going to be a number of hymns.
Oh.
And, being Catholic, I'm used to Mass taking a very long time.
Right.
Thankfully, the hymns were comparatively brief.
Okay.
So I think the whole thing was done in about 35 minutes.
Wow. And you didn't burst into flames, the steeple didn't fall off as you entered the church?
I got a nice tan. and somewhere outside, a horse screamed at the sky as thunder rolled, so God got his point across.
Naturally, he usually does. So how about Minnesota? That's one of the few states I've never actually been to.
It was pretty. It was much prettier than I expected.
Nice.
And not nearly as cold. Made sure to check out the Mall of America, which was exciting.
I would like to check that out. How was it?
I don't like malls in the way some people like malls.
No,
I kind of like them as sort of a social experiment way.
Yeah.
And so in that case, it's the West Edmonton Mall is bigger.
Yeah.
But Mall of America is much more modern.
Oh, okay.
So and it doesn't have that
frozen in the 80s vibe.
Yeah, it's not as sad as the West Edmonton Mall.
And it's so sad because I remember going up to West Edmonton Mall as a kid when it first opened.
Yeah.
And they had aviaries and aquariums lining the mall's, hallways. They had this amazing kind of restaurant area and, of course, Fantasyland with the rides and everything. I went back there this summer. There's nothing but holes in the ground where the aquariums and the aviaries used to be. Fantasyland looks like it fell out of the 80s. The food place literally is exactly the same as it was in the 80s. And where they used to have dolphins, apparently the dolphins killed somebody. They climbed into the dolphin culture. So then they went to seals, and seals were apparently too loud and smelly and could possibly kill someone. So now the big show that everyone lines up and pays money to go see? Otters.
Otters.
Because an otter has never killed anyone. And I'm guessing
they just got a better lobby.
Well, I'm guessing they're cheaper to feed.
That makes sense.
It's so sad.
Oh man. Well, I was there in May, as you recall, and
right.
I sort of felt like the food hall sort of looked like the dining. You remember that movie? Ever see that movie Ghost Ship?
No.
About the cruise ship where everyone died in some horrible accident. It kind of looked like the dining hall from there.
Not a high recommendation.
No, just lots of
shadows and dark.
Yeah, and chandeliers where chandeliers should not be.
Yes.
Like their predatory chandeliers just wander the halls and kind of hide in plain sight. Think, oh no, just a chandelier.
And just a light. Don't worry about it. How was the food options at Mall of America? Were they better than West Ed?
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, the hobo selling hot dogs down the road made out of rat meat would be a better option than West Ed. No, Mall of America had Chipotle, which I like.
Yeah.
And they had B-dubs. So
B-dubs.
Buffalo Wild Wings.
Oh.
It's my favorite chain restaurant.
Oh, you're so classy. I have been there. I actually liked it. There are a few too many TVs in there for me, but
that's.
But the wings are solid. They're not the best wings, but they're solid.
No, they're fine. I mean, that was the whole point. I know the allergy menu by heart.
Yes.
And they're there, and it's chicken wings.
You know what my favorite American chain is?
Is that
Red Lobster?
Really?
I love Red Lobster. Going there is like a religious experience.
Nikki loves Red Lobster too.
Oh my God.
I don't know. We have been to more Red Lobsters than I care to admit. I've been to Red Lobsters in Times Square.
Yeah. Me too.
Honolulu.
I haven't been there.
Spokane.
Yeah.
2 or 3 places in Southern California.
Toronto. I would go every time I was in Toronto.
Okay, I've never been to Toronto.
Yeah, and I got to go this summer. I went to Seattle and went to Red Lobster, and I just, spent time in prayer and ate my Admiral's Feast and my cheesy biscuits, and I don't know what it is about it. I love everything about it. The sad part is the ones in Canada are much nicer than the ones in the States.
Oh, that's true, yeah.
They're kind of run down, and the States are not quite the same level.
Speaking of the cheesy biscuits reminded me, so my first visit to Red Lobster was in 2010 when a bunch of us went on a 2-week road trip down through the States.
Right.
And I think we were somewhere north of Los Angeles where we stopped.
Right.
And we did not realize that, if you ask them to bring you a shitload of these biscuits to take home, they will.
Oh yeah.
We
With
were
little bags.
Yeah, that's it. We were hiding them in napkins and sliding them into our pockets. And then the waitress comes over with a fresh basket and a bag and goes, "Oh, here, do you guys want this?" Oh. Yeah.
We feel foolish.
I'm kind of white trash. That's great.
We're used to stealing from restaurants in Canada. They're not that accommodating.
Well, we used to steal a lot from restaurants when I was
nice.
a lot young. Yes, I know.
Color me shocked.
I was poor.
Speaking of poor, if anybody out there wants to give me a Christmas present, I would happily take Red Lobster gift cards. Just saying. And if Red Lobster is interested in any kind of sponsorship deal, I'm not really one to sell out. I will sell the out for Red Lobster. I am like a Red Lobster whore. I will do anything.
Fantastic.
It's the weirdest thing. I don't know what it is about me. I don't know. I love them. I love them.
I had no idea you liked Red Lobster that much.
Hidden depths, my friend.
Apparently.
I mean, you're the one who usually goes on about the food, but...
True.
So did you have anything interesting happen down there? Anything paranormal or anything?
A couple little things.
Okay.
The first thing is actually related to food.
Surprise.
Yes. So I was invited to the wedding because of a friend.
Right.
And he was the one I was sharing accommodation with.
Right.
And he's the guy I helped him move last year from New York to L.A.
Right.
And other times from Austin to Boston, things like this. And one of our regular road trip things is we always stop at Sonic Drive-In.
I like those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For candy slushes.
Candy slushes.
Yeah. So
Talk to me about that. Because I'm a big Slurpee fan, as you know.
Oh, so you will love this.
Okay.
It's a Slurpee
Yeah.
with usually like cherry syrup.
Uh-huh.
And then you can add either popping candy or nerds.
So it's like a white trash bubble tea?
Yeah.
Trailer park bubble tea. You should just call it that.
For the record, I quite like living in trailers. So
I too have lived in a trailer.
there we go.
I totally, yeah.
But no, they're amazing. And
Really?
when we're feeling really sassy,
Yeah.
we get the 20 ounce.
Oh my God.
So it's essentially the distillation of all that is good in a single
You
cup.
know you're going to die young, right? With all that cherry syrup and nerd candy.
Nope. I'm going to live forever with a joint in one hand and a 20-ounce cherry nerd slushie in the other.
Oh my God. Anyway.
Yes, right. So we left the Mall of America at closing time around 7.
Right.
And since the place we were staying at was way hell and gone outside of town, we decided to hit up Sonic beforehand.
Naturally.
Yeah. As
Wouldn't
you do.
want to risk not getting diabetes.
I don't like uncertainty. So the closest Sonic was 10 minutes away, tops.
Mhm.
But we'd already been to that particular one.
Oh no.
Yeah, well, so we...
You can't clash cultural experiences.
No. Let's not go to that Sonic. Let's go to the good Sonic.
Oh my God.
So we decided to drive to the one in Elk River, which was about 45 minutes away.
Okay. Seriously. Let me get this straight. You drove an hour out of your way to get exactly the same thing from exactly the same place you could have gotten 10 minutes away.
Yes.
Why?
Because nighttime is for f***ing and driving. And since I couldn't be on the highway to the Bone Zone,
Oh,
I-94 and a cherry slushie was going to have to do it.
Oh God, that's such an unpleasant picture. Anyway, go on.
Yeah, so we bought our slushies and we decided to cruise around town.
As you do.
Yeah, well, first we sat in the parking lot and just kind of stared at people walking past as we ate them.
Oh my God.
With the car running and the heat on.
Oh Jesus.
Because America does things to my brain.
Yes.
Another night we actually got them and then sat in the car in a Cabela's parking lot.
Oh my God.
Overlooking the interstate, just watching traffic go
doing
past.
Office Pops. Do you remember that show? The other guys.
The
desk pop.
The desk pop.
So were you like, did you have a handgun out the window shooting
just
into the
firing
sky?
at random.
I'm sure you wouldn't be the only ones in the parking lot in Cabela's.
I think we were the only ones there doing what we were doing. There were
Okay.
other people there. I'd rather not know what they were doing.
Gross.
Yes. But in this particular occasion in Elk River, we decided to cruise around town, and I looked up haunted sites, and then I found one. It was the old library.
Okay.
But on the way there, we passed what looked like a large brick schoolhouse, and I felt like I was driving past a speaker playing at top volume, but without the sound.
Oh, like kind of vibration?
I felt some kind of something from there. Some kind of...
Right.
It seemed... I thought, okay, there's something going on. There's something paranormal going on there.
Right.
But I kind of assumed I was imagining it because the building looked creepy.
Yeah.
But then we got to the allegedly haunted site, and it was a bust.
Oh.
So I did some more research, and I found out that the building we'd passed,
Yeah.
a community center, which was called the Hankey Building, we found out it was actually haunted.
Oh, wow.
People have seen things move on their own, heard voices that weren't there.
So pretty much like Haunting 101.
Yeah, exactly.
That's amazing.
It was too late to go inside, but I snapped a photo of the exterior, which is up on our Facebook page if
Okay.
anyone wants to go have a look.
Okay.
And the other thing I encountered was just brief, but it was in the house where we were staying.
Ooh, tell me.
So it was pretty mild, but the place we were staying in was a vacation house belonging to the parents of the bride. And it's a full-on house. I mean,
Right,
2 floors, 3 bedrooms, 2 bath,
Yeah.
outdoor dining area, and a conservatory running the length of the house
Ooh.
that overlooks the river.
A conservatory.
Conservatory.
Very fancy.
I say.
I'm surprised I'll let you in with your sonic slurpees.
I think they are too. The whole thing was lucky because without a free place to stay, I wouldn't have been going anywhere.
Right, right.
But anyways, the house is pretty secluded. It's about 45 minutes north of Minneapolis and 15 north of the nearest town, which is Stillwater.
Sounds like a good place to get murdered.
Well, funny you say that.
Oh.
I mentioned to the owner that we locked the doors at night, and she said, "Good call. Out there, no one's going to hear you scream." Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Comforting.
Right?
Not, oh no, don't worry. It's just country people.
And she's a doctor, so she has great poker face. So it was this very flat delivery.
Jesus.
Yeah. But to get there, you have to watch for a small dirt track amidst the grass at the side of the road.
Right?
You get out, unlock a gate, relock it behind you,
Naturally.
and then thread your way down this long, winding driveway that's basically 2 tire ruts through the trees and tall grass. Almost no cell reception. So once you're out there for the night, you are out there for the night.
And is it like pitch black with spooky sounds?
Pitch black. No, very few sounds, actually. Very quiet. Pitch black.
So you're basically staying in a horror movie.
Yes.
Yes.
So the first night we got there after midnight, so we didn't really explore the place. But the next day, while everyone else was asleep, I decided to have a poke around. So walking through the whole house, I realized I still hadn't gone through the conservatory, which
Right.
seemed strange given with all the windows, it was literally the brightest room in the house.
Yeah.
So I stepped into the conservatory and immediately felt like I was in someone's space.
I've had that experience in different places. Hotels even.
Yeah.
Houses. Yeah. No, I know what you mean.
It's the biggest, brightest room in the house, but the second I walked in there, it felt crowded, and I very much got the impression I was intruding.
Wow.
So I sort of apologized and left,
Yeah.
which was the end of it until the night before we had to go home.
Yeah.
So by and large, everyone had gone upstairs to the rooms by midnight or shortly thereafter.
Like when you say everyone, how many people are we talking?
The first night was 4.
Yeah.
And then the last 4 nights, it was just my friend and I.
Oh, wow. So the two of you were totally alone, middle of the blackened night in the country with no cell service.
Correct.
Oh, I bet you love that.
Well, you know, it was kind of relaxing sometimes.
Really?
Until it wasn't. There was a point where, and I think I put this out on Twitter, I said, I have officially reached the point in this secluded country getaway when, oh, this is so relaxing, has turned into, is that my heartbeat or the footsteps of a murderer?
Yes.
There was one night where, as I was nodding off to sleep, I did think I'd heard footsteps in the hallway, and I knew Mike, the fellow I was staying with, was in his room.
Okay.
So, but that could have just been, nodding off to sleep.
Yeah.
But the night before we left, I was packing up my gear downstairs while listening to podcasts, and I began to feel, I guess you'd say, presence
Right.
emanating from the conservatory side of the house.
Yeah.
I checked my watch and I realized it was past 1, which is later than I had been downstairs the whole time.
Right.
If I had to guess, I'd say that whatever lives in the conservatory is used to people being out of its space by probably midnight, if
Right.
not maybe a little bit later.
And that is not unusual. I've heard of spirits who are almost non-existent during the day, but at night they feel that's their space.
Oh, well, I mean,
Yeah.
after the in the C segment, I've definitely got a story like that.
Well, the Young Building at Camosun.
Oh, really?
Absolutely. Yeah, after 9 o'clock.
Interesting.
Because I would be at a night class there until 9:30. And running up to it, you would definitely feel there's something there, but it wasn't a big deal. After 9 o'clock, it was like, get the hell out. This is our time.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. Anyway, sorry, please.
No,
so
no.
what did you do when you felt this?
Well, the weirdest thing happened. I almost left all my packing where it was and walked upstairs.
Right.
It was almost like an autopilot reaction. I
Wow.
almost just walked away from it.
Wow.
But I fought it off, and I finished packing. Because I thought, well, Jesus, I'm almost done.
Yeah.
And I said that out loud. I'm almost done. I'm sure if Mike heard me, he thought I sounded like a goddamn nut.
Right.
But the whole time, the feeling from the conservatory was getting stronger and stronger. After a few more minutes, I went to bed. And when I woke up in the morning, I found out that both Mike and I had crazy-ass dreams all night.
So it was almost like the thing was sort of poking at you, like don't get in my space. This is what you get for getting in my space.
Could be, yeah.
Wow.
It was, I mean, other than that, it was a lovely home, and I'm certainly very happy they lent the place to us. You know, it's bigger than my apartment by a factor of about 2. But
nice. That's awesome.
Yeah, so it was a great vacation, but I'm glad to be back because it's kind of, America can be tense, especially right now. America's a pretty tense place.
Yeah.
And I noticed as soon as I was off the plane, I felt my shoulders just go.
It's weird, isn't it? I was just in Seattle last weekend, and it was
of course
coming across back on the boat, and you're like, oh, there's Canada.
All right, so moving on to today's show, and keeping with the theme of road tripping America, we have a guest this week.
We do. It also connects to last episode when we told a story that took place in part at the Stanley Hotel in Estes Park, Colorado. Our guest is Jamie Davis Whitmer, author of America's Most Haunted Hotels, and she'll be with us right after the break. We'll be right back.
Welcome back. Tonight our guest is Jamie Davis Whitmer, author, traveler, and investigator of lost things, and she's here to talk to us about her latest book, America's Most Haunted Hotels. Jamie, thank you for being on the Ghost Story, guys.
Thank you.
Now, before we get started, maybe tell us a little bit about your background and how you came to the paranormal.
Well, I think I've just had a natural curiosity as a small child, and then getting a little bit older and starting to have some of my own travels and adventures, I kind of came into the ghost hunting arena by chance. I was getting ready to go to Niagara Falls, just doing a tourist trip, and packing the night before. And there was a ghost show on, and I couldn't tell you which one it was, but probably a Ghost Hunters or a Ghost Adventures, and they were investigating Rolling Hills Asylum, which is in western New York, not far from Niagara Falls. I got on the internet and realized that you could actually just buy a ticket to a ghost hunt, like it was an attraction.
Right.
And I'd never heard, anything like that. That was really the start of it.
Is that what then led to your first book, which was, of course, Haunted Asylums, Prisons, and Sanatoriums?
It did. That first visit at Rolling Hills Asylum, and I just thought that it was a very interesting thing, the paranormal tourism.
Absolutely. And, you, of course, having moved from that to haunted hotels, I got to say you're braver than I, because at no point have I willingly stayed in a haunted anything. I'm not a brave man.
Well, the haunted hotels, it was way tamer than the haunted asylums and prisons book. I'll tell you that.
Really? Now, see, I would think the hotel would be worse because you're actually staying there overnight. An asylum, unlike the people who'd been there previously, you can leave.
Yeah. No, I mean, to me, the hotels is just safe is the word that I felt. These are places that are open to the public for business, for, comfort.
Interesting. So your experience with the asylums was a lot more hard-edged.
I think I would say that, yeah.
So getting into the book, America's Most Haunted Hotels, I wanted to say both Ian and I really enjoyed the book. Particularly, absolutely. And particularly, you refer to yourself in there as a no-bullshit kind of person.
Yeah.
which I appreciate.
I'm a paralegal by trade.
Oh,
so
there we go.
I worked under, trial lawyers for many, many years, and I would say I'm pretty grounded in reality.
Well, I was going to say that is something I feel is sorely lacking in this genre, so we both really appreciated that.
Well, thank you.
Oh, absolutely. And there were places in the book where you dispelled some bad information, and that, I think, is hugely important, because I enjoy reading on the subject. I enjoy talking about it, obviously, but there is so much lazy research that it's really heartening to see someone go through the information and say, you know what, this doesn't match up. This doesn't make sense. So again, that's just that was such a refreshing change.
Thank you. Yeah, I think if you go on a ghost tour or something like that, which many of the places offer, and it's an attraction and it's a fun thing to do. Like I think during the Limp Mansion, I went on one, and this was one where I think maybe you may have been talking about where I said, the lady was very nice and she was a good storyteller. And you can always tell when somebody's telling you a story,
Right.
As legend would have it, or the story goes, or something like that.
Right. Many people say.
But she didn't present it as this is fact. I mean, some things she did, and she had a display with, documents and everything that came with the house, but that was just a very good example of sometimes, there's definitely a line between what we know for certain based on historical records versus here's what we think.
Right. And one place that seemed to be really I think the best kind of story is in that it's very, very little known, and so I think there's not a chance for a lot of nonsense to have grown up around it. And maybe nonsense is harsh, but bad information or legend is the story of Bisbee, Arizona.
Yeah.
Now, Bisbee I was surprised to see it in there. I was not aware it was haunted. I'm aware of the city or town, I guess, because of the comedian Doug Stanhope. He lives there and he talks about it a lot in his comedy. So I'd heard about it that way. And after reading your description of the vibe in Bisbee, his choice to live there made a lot more sense. I know. I'm not sure if you're familiar with his work, but it's very, very dark, very slightly despairing stuff, and it sounds like Bisbee fits that description.
Yeah, that's probably one of the places that, and not in a bad way, but it's not a place that I would ever, buy a plane ticket to go to unless I really had business there. Bisbee kind of was a side trip from Jerome, Arizona, and Jerome I would put on a bucket list.
So tell me about Jerome then. Tell me about the Jerome Grand Hotel. What was your experience there?
That place is kind of special to me. I've been there a few times, and the time that we stayed there for the book, we were actually the only guests in the place just by chance.
Oh, wow.
Right after New Year's, there had been a bad snowstorm, and just people didn't show up for their bookings, or they canceled. So we really lucked out. And the hotel is an old mining hospital. To me, there's just something, there's something to the hospitals. So there's that, and we actually had a weird flashlight experience that, we got on my iPhone on video, and it's on my YouTube channel for Haunted Asylums.
So I'm curious. I'd never heard of the flashlight test. So how does that work?
They're little flashlight, and it's one where it has a twist on the end. It's how you turn it on.
Okay.
And so I'll just lay 3 of them down on the floor.
Right.
And I'll know, what colors they are. And sometimes, you can say, like, turn the purple one on. And you can see that is what will happen.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
It's like I'm just having a conversation with somebody while I'm standing in line at Starbucks or something. It's just very casual, like I'm just trying to have a nice conversation.
Interesting.
And it doesn't happen, at every place, but it happened at Jerome, and we did get it on video.
Wow. So what kind of questions were you asking? Were you trying to reach a particular spirit?
We were in, I think her name was May, and this actually happened. The room that a young woman, she was actually a schizophrenic, and she tried to commit suicide by jumping out of the window, and she didn't fall. I mean, she fell, but didn't die on impact.
Oh, jeez.
But later died of her injuries. And so we were trying to talk to her, and I don't know, obviously for certain who or what we were talking with, but it seemed like we were like talking to a spirit who thought that they were in the 1950s in real time.
Oh, really?
While we were in 2015.
Interesting. So how did that come across? I guess what I mean is how did you come to that conclusion?
Okay. So one of the things that we asked in the very beginning, I said, "Are you May? Were you a patient in this room?" And it lit up. And so then my questions were like, "Are you a minor? Did you have tuberculosis, polio, schizophrenia, childbirth?" And like nothing was going on. And we were just asking more questions. I said, a lot of people I talk to don't realize they've died. And it went on and off 3 different times, whatever that means.
Oh, interesting. Like she was having a reaction to the suggestion of it.
Yeah. It was just crazy. And then one of the big surgeons that was kind of had a little bit of controversy surrounding him as far as some deaths, that he may have either negligently caused or kind of been affiliated with. His name was Dr. Carlson. And at the end of it, I said, "Do you know Dr. Carlson?" And it was just a series of strong lights, just very, very strong. So just a whole series of things like that where, you ask things and then you give it a couple of seconds to see if there's going to be a response, and then you move on. And it's just crazy to go back, and read it and look at it and just say, like, I really think there was something to this.
Yeah, well, it certainly sounds like it. So what was your personal sense, you and your husband, I guess you could say your read on the area? Did you feel presence, or was it only through the flashlight
I definitely
communications?
did, but not in a bad way.
Right.
And it's weird because it's like the whole town. I mean, much like Bisbee, though, in a way where it just feels sort of charged, And it
Right.
feels like there's just something going on in that town. And I don't know if it's because it's a mining town and it's, a geology thing. Maybe it has something to do with all the empty, miles and miles, hundreds of miles of tunnels in the ground. I don't know how to explain it, but they both very much had just an eerie feeling to them.
Interesting. And I believe it was
Almost like a time warpish.
Oh, okay.
Like you're having deja vu if you ever go into a small town and it just feels like the 1950s would feel.
Mm-hmm.
That's what both of those towns are like.
Interesting. So I'm curious now about to go from Jerome to the Stanley Hotel in Estes Park, Colorado. You stayed there a number of times.
Yes.
So tell me a little bit about the Stanley and about your experiences there. I've never been there myself.
So the Stanley feels like a happy place to me. I mean, it originally was sort of a vacation hotel for the wealthy of America, where they would leave the East Coast in the early 1900s and stay at the Stanley for 3 months in the summer or something. So the fourth floor is where they would put their kids and the nannies, kind of like their kids were upstairs at summer camp sleeping. And the fourth floor is supposed to be the most haunted floor up there. 2 times that I've stayed there, I've had objects move on me in the room while I'm sleeping. And that has never happened to me anywhere else in my life. The first was a camera. I woke up and it was under the bed, sitting upright,
Oh,
just
jeez.
under the bed. And the most recent time was a pair of my glasses that I thought, I went to bed with on the nightstand, and I woke up and they're in my suitcase.
Interesting. And we recently had a listener story describing a stay at the Stanley, and they described similar things. Their stuff was moved. They themselves were tucked quite tightly into bed in the morning. So it seems like one of the rare.
I don't know how to explain stuff moving on me.
No, that's it. It seems like one of the rare places where you have actual movement, and not just the kind of movement where something explodes from one side of the room to the other or flies off a shelf. It's a careful, deliberate movement of things, and it's so hard to wrap my head around, but it's absolutely fascinating stuff.
Why does it not happen when I see it? I don't know. It's creepy to think about what's going on when I'm sleeping.
Yeah, I think the listener who sent in the story last week, they said they tried to imagine how silly it must have looked for the covers to come up around them as they were sleeping and be tucked in. It looked like must have looked like a bad horror movie or something. But it just beggars belief to imagine what that looks like.
Yeah, and if I would have had a camera on it all night, would I have captured it, or would it have been nothing? I mean, who could say?
That's it. And this stuff does seem to have a real sense of when it is being observed.
Well, and let me tell you something. The Myrtles in Louisiana, just kind of as a side note,
Sure.
that was one where we legitimately felt like we were in a family home and there were family spirits there, and they did not want to interact with us. They did not want to get caught on camera. Yeah, I do. I believe that sometimes there's some intelligent life forms out there, and they do not want to interact.
Well, I remember one time I stayed at the Lizzie Borden house in Falls River. And
how was that?
Well, it was an experience. What really occurred, or what I thought was interesting, and the reason I relate the story to you, is that I ran into a psychic while I was there, and we both sort of came to the conclusion that the thing in the house was not the Bordens, but was some conscious entity that seems to feed on the energy of people who come there to be frightened. And I wonder if that's if in some of these cases that's not necessarily the Stanley, because that seems to be a very deliberate, pleasant experience. But I wonder if there are some places where these things try and provoke a sense of fear because they somehow feed on emotional energy.
I have wondered and kind of thought the same thing after traveling for my first book in the asylums and prisons. And I really do think that there's something to the idea that when people gather and call things, things can come.
Right.
We don't know where they're coming from, and it's not necessarily because they're sitting around that asylum.
Right. It's almost like the act of invocation, the act of calling to them just wherever they are. They hear
Yeah,
these
and
things.
I've had tour guides, in particular one at Mansfield at the Ohio Reformatory, tell me that as they've seen numbers for their tours increase, they've seen like an increase in activity.
Oh, really?
Even when they're just there themselves, like doing their job.
That is
Yeah.
fascinating. See, I would have thought it was the opposite, because I know, for example, I work in our studios in a haunted building, and I find that the more people are here, the more tamped down that is. So I'm fascinated to learn that in some places it's the opposite, that the more people come, the more
Exactly.
evident
I mean,
it is.
it's almost like we're creating this beacon, maybe.
That makes sense. Or as we said earlier, maybe some kind of cumulative energy left behind acts
Yeah.
as a beacon to these
What
things.
came first, the ghost or the ghost hunters? I don't know.
That's the eternal question.
Yeah.
I did enjoy that in the chapter on the Stanley, you mentioned they actually offer a ghost adventure package that comes complete with a red rum mug.
Oh, yes. I have mine.
That's fantastic. So finally, I'm kind of curious about your experiences on the Queen Mary outside of Long Beach. I know Ian is he says he's been a fan of the Queen Mary ever since he got into the paranormal. And your chapter was quite in depth, and there was some really fascinating stuff in there. I wondered if you could tell us a little bit about your read on that place and your thoughts in general on the Queen Mary.
That place definitely should be on anybody's bucket list. And one of the biggest claims is that the pool area, the swimming pool area, is haunted. And I legit think it is. I mean, I had a weird experience down there. I didn't find out later that the dressing room area was considered by a lot of psychics to be a vortex.
Oh.
And that's where I had like a weird sort of like a panicky feel. So our guide broke us up, and we kind of like split off into these dressing rooms, but we were all, within probably a couple arms length distance from each other. But I just had the weirdest panicky feeling. And I don't know, had like the worst kind of cheesy horror movie picture nightmare in my head of like a woman with stringy hair or something, trying to get me, which made no sense because our guide really had not been telling us ghost stories, and certainly, hadn't said anything to me about that. But I did like have just a weird, terrifying experience where I really wanted to curl up into a ball in that dressing room.
Wow.
And then when we got out of there and we were standing around the pool, we all heard a disembodied giggle.
Oh, jeez.
And we're all together, and we looked at each other. I mean, you would know if somebody in a small group was putting you on.
Right.
I feel. I mean, you'd be able to look at their face and tell that they were, playing a joke or something like that, or you'd be able to hear it. But that was legit. And so the claim in that area is that the little girl, Jackie, plays and giggles and all of that. And I really think that we all heard her that night.
So I'm curious, outside of places like the Queen Mary or the Jerome, do you tend to have experiences in your day-to-day life?
I want to say before I started traveling for the first book, I felt like that I maybe had some natural tendencies just from when I was a little girl, some stuff. I wanted to see if I could get in tune with that before I started traveling for this book. And there are some antebellum places in Georgia where I grew up.
Right.
And I just always kind of thought like that there was something to two of these old houses. One was in Madison, Georgia, and another one was in Jonesboro, Georgia. And so we rented them out for the night just to, do some amateur investigations and things like that. And I had experiences there. But it was based on like going to these places, driving by and just feeling like there's something going on in this house. Like I just had that tingling kind of, spidey sense. So
Right.
I like to feel like I can sense it a little bit. To be honest with you, I really have tried not to in the last 3 years.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because I don't want to know anymore. I feel like I know enough, and I'm at peace with sort of what my travels have revealed, and I don't actively ghost hunt. And Madame Vera at the Stanley Hotel, my husband and I had a private session with her that Halloween in 2015, and she told me, she said, look, I don't think this ghost hunting is good for you anymore.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And she said even she doesn't do it. She
Fascinating.
said, I walk around this place all the time. She said, but I do not actively call things to me.
Interesting.
So she kind of warned me about, be careful what you're trying to engage with.
Right. So did she say why she felt it was dangerous for you? Did she say you were particularly vulnerable for a certain reason, or that perhaps you'd attracted the attention of things already that were just not good for you?
She didn't, really elaborate, but I kind of got the sense maybe that, there may have been like a little a little bit of a dangerous door that I may have opened with the asylums and prisons.
Oh,
Work
interesting.
maybe that I didn't necessarily I wasn't successful in closing, and
Right.
so yeah.
So did you have, I'm going back to the asylums, were there experiences you had there that made you feel uncomfortable?
Yeah, no kidding. Yorktown Hospital in Texas.
Right?
This was the only place that we walked out of without kind of saying the prayer at the end about, if you're here, you're not welcome. You can't, come home with us, don't follow us, and things like that. And we had a weird, audio of something, sound like a female voice, following me around. We didn't hear it. I didn't find out until I got home, and it was saying, Jamie, Jamie.
Really?
They want Jamie. Yeah, and so we're upstairs doing this flashlight thing. It's only about 9:30. We've been in that place since, I don't know, 2 o'clock that afternoon or something. And we only made it till 9:30 that night because I got so creeped out. We're doing this flashlight experience upstairs, and I don't know how to explain it to you, but I felt like that we were engaging with something that wanted us to believe that it was a child.
Yep, absolutely.
But it wasn't.
Oh,
it's
that's
kind of the gist of it. And I got the hell out of that place.
No kidding.
Seriously. And but we forgot to say the prayer anyway, so I get back home, and I just had a terrible nightmare.
Oh.
A couple of days or a week after getting home, just a terrible, terrible nightmare of this woman just in my face, this old hag of a woman. And I woke up, and it's just a nightmare, it's just a dream or whatever. Every single light in my house was on. Okay, I don't go to bed with any lights on, so that was weird. But I just told myself, okay, it was an electric short.
Right, but that's
but
that's
it
some
freaked
short.
me out.
That's incredible. That would certainly put the fear in me. Wow.
Yeah, and so now, to this day, I don't live in that house anymore. I sold that house, and I'm 5 hours away. But about 2 times a year, I'll still have a night terror.
Really?
Yeah.
And so you believe it's still the spirit from this hospital in Texas?
I want to not believe that, and I try not to think about it, but I don't know what else it could be.
Right.
Because I didn't have nightmares before I did that book.
Wow. Have you considered trying to approach a shaman of some description, or someone who can maybe help you close those doors?
I definitely would be open to it. I think I'm just I'm almost worried about, what if I pick the wrong person and they make it worse?
Right. No, I can see that. It's not like you can go to Yelp for shamans and find.
Yeah, and I kind of feel like 2 times a year that's not that bad. I can live with that.
That's fair. Again, a lot braver than me and Ian, because that one time a year would be too much for me. That is absolutely.
Well, and who knows what it is? Who knows why sometimes your brain makes you have nightmares?
Of course, absolutely, yeah, and there seems to be some consideration to the idea that sleep paralysis or night terrors are just misfiring of the brain. So that could absolutely be it.
Yeah, so I just delve into my legal work and try not to think about it.
That's fair. So, given all that, is it safe to say that America's Most Haunted Hotels will be your last paranormal book?
I would say for now.
Right.
Definitely.
Until you get a lid on this thing.
Yeah. And my husband was kind of reluctant about about doing this one, but we thought, oh well, they're on TripAdvisor. It's a hotel. Like, what's the big deal?
Right. And you were okay as far as that goes. You didn't have any lingering effects the way you did with the previous book.
I don't feel like I did from this one.
Well, that's...
And here's why too. I think like any time that we did any investigating, which really the Jerome I think was probably the biggest one where we did the flashlight investigation.
Right.
The Queen Mary, that was in a group setting that was more like a tour, than a ghost hunt.
Right.
And so I think that's the difference, that hotels was more like a tourist perspective.
Right.
Whereas the first book was more like, I'm here in the dark talking to anyone who wants to talk to me.
Right. And that casts a wide net, and you're just not sure what you're going to turn up in it.
Yeah. I would advise people that are going, to search for bumps in the night, that they kind of quantify what it is that they're looking for, and not just say, like, I'm here to talk to anybody who wants to talk to me.
Right. And that makes sense because, I mean, we wouldn't walk into I'm trying to think of an example, the darkness of New Orleans at 1 a.m. and just say, hey, everybody, let's talk, because
right?
That's not going to end well for you. So that makes a lot of sense. So where can our listeners find your books and your social media? Are you very active on social media?
I used to be, not so much anymore. I'll get on there, every now and then and monitor things. The Haunted Asylums has a Facebook page, and the Haunted Hotels book does too. My personal blog is jamiedaviswrites.com, and I've also got a line of journals that I'm working on, and that's stealthjournals.com.
Oh, fantastic. And I believe you have a number of them available on your Amazon store as well, correct?
Yes.
Perfect. All right. We've been talking to Jamie Davis Whitmer, author of America's Most Haunted Hotels. Thank you so much for being here, Jamie.
Thank you.
Welcome back. Thanks again to Jamie Davis Whitmer for coming on the show. Now, I know I say this a lot, but I actually really enjoyed this book. I did. She doesn't exaggerate the stories. She made an effort to weed out the bad information. I loved her detail. I loved her imagery. But I know that's something you appreciate too, when they don't try and just sell you a story.
Oh, yeah. There's nothing I dislike more than when I see an author use a phrase like "many have said," or
right.
Some people say.
Yeah. Hey,
Who?
wait, I said that.
Oh.
In my book.
Okay.
Some people have said.
But that's not specific enough.
It breaks the story flow.
No, it really doesn't.
What do you want? Citations?
That would be nice.
Professor Brennan?
A direct quotation would be nice.
Whatever. I do after some direct quotes, but mostly it's, people talk about it. It's a thing.
No, that's nonsense.
Whatever. But yeah, no, a whole chapter on the Queen Mary. I love that. I would really like to go and see the Queen Mary in LA sometime.
Yeah, I had no idea you were so into that place.
Oh my God. Boats. I love boats.
Really?
I don't know why. Yeah.
So you're afraid of drowning.
Oh, yeah.
But you love boats.
I had a very, very vivid dream about drowning on a boat. And, the other weird part is I remember being grade 4, grade 5 and being absolutely fascinated by the Titanic. This is way before the movie, way before Robert Ballard, who, went down there in a submarine. There really wasn't a lot of buzz about the Titanic, but I was completely smitten. I could tell you anything about it. I even asked my grandmother, because my poor grandmother was born in like 1904, and I'm like, dude, where were you the day the Titanic went down? And she's like, I was 10. Like, I don't really remember. So it wasn't a big thing. But boats, I don't know. It almost makes me wonder if I had something to do with it in some way. And
You sunk the Titanic?
Yeah, probably.
The lazy helmsman?
Probably. I don't know. I not big into past lives, but there's been a lot of stuff that kind of checks a lot of boxes that maybe it's something to do with it.
Interesting. Well, fair enough.
Yeah.
The only thing I knew about the Queen Mary going into this book was what I remembered from watching Unsolved Mysteries as a kid.
I remember that show. That was a great show.
I really like that. Of all the shows that keep rebooting, that's the one I'd actually like to see come back.
Yes, definitely.
Robert Stack is gone, unfortunately,
Yeah.
but so I don't know. I don't know who you would get to host that. I mean,
Mr. T.
I don't think he's in real great health. I think
No?
no.
Oh.
Unless you want him coughing blood into a lace hanky in between mysteries. I don't know.
He has consumption?
The greatest mystery is where he's been since the 80s.
Yeah, no. I don't know who you got.
I think you and I could take it.
Yeah, actually.
Yep, you and me.
Unsolved mysteries.
Trench coats.
Let's make it happen.
Although I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't be wearing a trench coat.
No, I think there's already a court order against that.
Yeah, that's true.
That and being too near schools.
Yeah, 200 meters.
Schools and playgrounds.
200 meters. And Curves Fitness Centers.
Oh.
And moving on, we have listener mail.
Woohoo.
Our courteous and efficient staff is on call 24 hours a day to serve all your supernatural elimination needs.
We're ready to believe you.
We have a lot to get to today, so away we go. The first one we received just before episode 22 was released, but we didn't get around to it for various reasons.
And what were those various reasons exactly?
The script was finished, and I didn't have time to add it in.
Okay, that's all I wanted to hear. Just so everyone knows who to blame.
Yeah, that figures. I thought blaming me was the default setting, but sure, now you know.
Pretty much.
So this email comes from Amanda, who lives in the great state of Pennsylvania.
Mm-hmm.
Regular listeners will know I have an unusual and kind of unexplained connection to that state, so I'm always interested when it pops up on my radar. Amanda has just found the show and binge listened to the first 14 episodes in a row, even while in the shower, a detail which she says she included for me.
Oh, God.
It's almost like I'm getting a reputation.
Being a total pervert? I can't imagine how that could ever happen.
No, it's a conundrum.
Yeah,
A
really.
conundrum drizzled in mystery and slowly massaged with confusion.
Oh, God, please stop. Ew.
Sorry, I got distracted.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Anyways, Amanda, thank you for thinking of me and giving me an opportunity to creep out Ian. Thank you, too, for the stories. And rather than tell them here, I think what we're going to do is save all our new listener stories for our 1-year anniversary episode, which is coming up in a little over a month.
Can you believe it's been a year?
I know, it's crazy.
It seems like we've been doing this for 100 years, and yet we just started and don't know what we're doing.
Yeah. Well, I sent you that text message the other day. It was, 4 or 5 days ago. It was a year since we met.
Yes.
Since that fateful coffee.
That fateful coffee, and then 6 weeks later we started a podcast.
Yes.
That's weird.
That's weird.
Our next email is from Zach, who I work with at the Ghost Walks.
So, Zach, you understand my pain.
Your pain? Oh, my God. Zach wrote in to tell us some stories from right here in Victoria.
Specifically from Hatley Castle and Fort Rod Hill. Again, we're going to share those stories on the anniversary episode. Zach also mentioned he was going to head back out to those locations in December to try and further develop the feelings he had on his first visit. And be careful out there, dude. Also, I'm supposed to tell you to actually memorize the numbers for the Valencia story and not guess.
Yeah.
I don't know what that means, but
because he and I split a tour, and the Valencia story was on there, and I said to him, I don't remember the numbers in terms of how many died, how many were on the boat, what year it was, the basics. And
I don't remember the story.
No, I remember the story, but he mocked me pretty hard for that because he is a numbers guy. And
right.
Make sure to let us know if you encounter anything while you're out there, Zach, because, where you're going, pretty weird place.
Yeah. Alexa wrote in to share some of her experiences from in and around Seattle.
Alexa, you might remember, also shared some interesting Victoria stuff on her Halloween episode. We're also going to get to meet her, isn't that right?
Indeed we are, yeah. Her and her husband are visiting the city for a bit this month, and so we're all going to get together for coffee. She's also bringing us some photos she took in a haunted location in Seattle, so I'm really eager to see those.
Definitely. We had 2 emails from Tim, one with a story and one with a suggestion for our eventual New York City episode. The story was from Bachelor's Grove Cemetery in Chicago. So thank you for that, Tim.
Lindsay wrote in with stories for what she called our mythical dream episode.
At this point, I'm starting to wonder.
It'll happen, I swear. I just don't know when.
Sure. Her stories were particularly interesting because they don't sound like dreams as much as they do experience couched as dreams, like out-of-body experiences almost.
Yeah, I know what you mean. There's actually a similar story in my book, A Strange Little Place, available everywhere fine books are sold.
Jesus.
A woman I interviewed said she had a dream where a noise woke her up, and when she ventured outside her bedroom to check it out, she was pinned to the ground by something she described as being like a Dementor from Harry Potter.
Ooh.
So basically a shadow entity. She woke up back in bed, and after that her life took a bad turn for a while. She got sick, she had financial problems.
That's terrible.
Yeah, and in fact I had an experience like that myself recently. Not the dream part, but the paranormal experience having a knock-on effect a few days later.
Oh, how so?
Well, I'm going to tell that story once we wrap up listener mail because it's kind of long and it goes to a weird place.
Okay.
Including something that I had kind of gone back and forth about sharing on the show.
That thing you mean?
The thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, well, so we got another message from Kevin, who's from Nova Scotia, which is pretty cool. Didn't we make some kind of crack about Nova Scotia on a recent episode?
Yeah, we did. We got to stop doing that, knocking places because we assume we have no listeners there.
It's probably a good idea. America.
Yeah. We figured out recently 70% of our listeners are from America. We should probably stop
making the whole gun,
dragging
Trump,
America.
and no healthcare jokes.
Yeah.
That's probably a good idea.
Yeah, politics has infested every other corner of social discourse. I want this to be one place where it's not.
Okay, we'll give it a whirl. Kevin also shared some fantastic stories with us, including one about electronics operating without any power at all. And those things really freak me out.
Oh, yeah, me too. I can't wait to tell that one next month.
Yeah.
He also said the only bummer was having to wait 2 weeks between shows, and I'm with you there, man. If I could make a weekly show happen, I would be all over that. Maybe one day.
Maybe one day.
That sounded very hopeful. I got to spend more time with this asshole. Next up, we had some messages from Rachel GW, who included more stories I'm excited to share with everyone. And her and her husband may be over this way for an event next year.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so if that happens, we're going to try and arrange a meetup. So fingers crossed.
That would be cool. It's kind of amazing we're actually getting a chance to meet some of the people who listen to our show.
Right? Yeah. Speaking of which, actually, at the wedding reception, I mentioned our show to the woman sitting next to me.
Right.
And she said, "Oh, I've heard of it."
Really?
Yeah, that was exactly how I felt. I mean, she followed up with, "I haven't actually listened to the show yet, but I didn't give a shit." I mean,
No.
just the fact that she'd heard of it was, and she had not heard of it from the bride.
Yeah.
Who has, I don't know if she's actually listened to it or not, but she's aware that I do it.
That's cool.
Yeah. So,
wow.
Yeah, there are actually people listening to the show and talking about it. And not in a, can you believe what those sons of bitches said kind of way. So that's kind of nice.
Rin sent us a video to show she'd purchased both of our books. Thank you so much for that. I still get that warm, fuzzy feeling when I find out people are still buying the book.
Yes, me too. Who else? Wanda sent us a truly horrifying Santa Claus meme that I'll probably post on our page here pretty soon.
It's bad, but nothing will ever equal that picture you posted last week. The one with the dolls with actual baby teeth in their mouths.
Oh man, yeah, that was gnarly, and it struck a chord. That was literally our most commented on post ever. It's just unsettling. I don't even like looking at it.
This stuff is nightmare fuel. Our last message tonight comes from Danny with the subject heading, "A lady in the streets and a ghost in the sheets." She sent us an article from the Huffington Post titled, "Woman claims she has had sex with 20 ghosts and prefers them to men."
All right, so the article is from Huffington Post, and the headline is, "Woman claims she's had sex with 20 ghosts and prefers them to men. A woman in Bristol, England really likes spirited lovemaking, and only ghosts need apply." Amethyst Realm, a 27-year-old spiritual guidance counselor,
There you go.
says she's had sex with at least 20 ghosts. She prefers them to men. Now, I'm going to go out on a limb here, and say that
That's not her real name.
Well, when I worked for the government, I remember there was a woman who had changed her name to I won't say the full name, but her first name was Vampira. Legally changed it.
Are you serious?
I am 100% serious. And there was another woman. This is a historical one. This is one I can actually talk about. I guess she was a nun because she had legally changed her name to Sister Mary of the Angels. But so I'm thinking, Amethyst Realm, not a real name.
No.
Also, all these spiritual guidance counselors I know, I think they tend to end up having sex with the wrong people.
Yeah.
So, ghosts would seem preferable. Realm appeared on the British TV show ITV This Morning on Thursday to discuss what being ghosted is real. Oh, boo. Boo. She says the first experience was 12 years ago after she and her then fiance, weird they're not together anymore.
So weird.
Yeah, moved into a new house and she felt the presence of a strange entity. Most people break out the sage. Started as an energy, then became physical, she told host Philip Schofield and Holly Willoughby. There was pressure on my thighs and breath on my neck. Oh, hang on. There was pressure on my thighs and breath on my neck. I just always felt safe. I had sex with the ghost. You can feel it. It's difficult to explain. There was a weight and a weightlessness, a physical breath and stroking, and the energy as well. Realm said she had an affair with the ghost for 3 years, but that it ended when her human husband came home from work early and saw the shadowy shape of a man through the window. Now,
Jesus.
we both know exactly what this is. This is got caught cheating.
Yeah.
Honey, it was a ghost.
It was a ghost. The guy's in the closet.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And this just it got out of control.
Yep.
Oh, no, I do it with ghosts all the time.
Yeah.
It's
It's a regular thing. It's not really cheating.
No. Realm wants to get pregnant by one of the ghosts. Okay, now this is crazy. How does that even work? I mean, I don't want to know the actual mechanics of how it works.
No.
But how have we reached a point in society where you can say something like this and you're not locked up?
Well, and her next part is, I've done a bit of research into phantom pregnancies. Where?
Yeah, I want to see. Those are citations I
Come
want to
on.
see.
Me too.
Yeah.
People say. No.
That's right.
No. Show me your goddamn spirit baby, lady. There's a possibility that it is a ghost in you, but people don't know how to carry it to full term. Oh, in this age of science, that's such a
That's
shock.
right. If only we had machines that could see inside the human body.
Yeah. Come on. That just annoys me.
Oh, man. So it goes on. The best part of this whole thing is that she's from Bristol, which is where Nikki's from.
Yes.
So I'm going to lord this over her till the end of her days.
Yeah, Bristolians.
The Bristolians out there banging Casper. So, Danny, I don't know what to tell you. I mean,
But thank you for that.
thank you for that. That's the world continues to get stranger.
Yep.
One last little bit of vaguely email-related housekeeping. We've been contacted by a potential sponsor about putting a couple ads on our show. We've had an ad before, of course, for my friend's site, coffeecrew.com, but it's not a paid spot. It's more of a link exchange. This would be more of a traditional ad in that we'd be talking up the particular product in 2 short 30-second-ish spots, one before the intro and one after the second break, like the Coffee Crew ad.
Neither of us particularly like ads, and you probably don't either. So we're letting you know ahead of time that rather than doing a traditional ad format, we'll be doing them as short little skits, which makes me kind of nervous because I won't be writing them. But will hopefully be entertaining so you don't feel like you have to hit the 30-second skip ahead button on your podcast player.
Yeah, and we should be clear that if we don't like the product, the ad won't be happening.
Yeah.
One of the things we do on this show that I'm proud of is we don't tolerate bullshit. And that will be the same with any sponsors that come along.
Right.
Colin's site, coffeecrew.com, is an incredible resource for coffee enthusiasts, so we've been comfortable associating ourselves with him. He's also the person who recommended this particular mixer and mic setup, and if you've listened to our first 3 pre-mixer episodes, you know what a godsend that is.
Yeah. So to wrap it up, we might have 2 ads in the next episode. You have been warned because it's not a lock, and I have a feeling they'll think twice once they see our stats.
Yeah, they did ask for our demographic information.
There's a chance it might not happen at all, but because the first ad would be appearing at the very beginning of the next show, giving us no time to explain it first, we wanted to bring it up now.
What else?
Oh, how are we doing on that T-shirt front there, buddy?
All systems are go.
Woo!
Yeah, as predicted, the 3 shirts our listeners won during our Halloween show arrived while I was in the USA.
Right.
So they didn't get sent until December 3rd, but they have been sent. 1 here to Victoria, 1 to the US, and 1 to England.
So you mailed the one in Victoria?
Yeah, I did. I considered just dropping it off, but
Yeah.
that didn't seem right. It was a little too, and now we know where you live.
Okay, but didn't you have to know the address of this person to mail those
Yeah,
shirts?
it's just different. It felt more appropriate, less weird to just drop it in the mail. I spent, here's $10, pay Canada Post. It's just a social contract thing.
Okay.
I just feel like having one of us turn up at your house would be a little bit weird.
Well, it would be if we were like demanding dinner, but if you just dropping it off in the mailbox doesn't seem like a big deal.
It didn't feel right. It just
Oh,
didn't.
you're such a strange little man.
I know. But yeah, no. So anyways, I mailed it.
And when can they expect to receive them?
I would say the one going to Victoria should have arrived already.
Right.
And the other 2 may get there before Christmas, but it's a crapshoot.
Right.
I mean, I sent them airmail, but right now, of course, just there's so much going through the mail being that it's Christmas.
Well, and once you get them, we'd love a selfie of you guys wearing them so we can post it to our Facebook page and other various social media. We won't specifically identify you beyond your first name unless you want us to, of course, but we'd really like to share those.
Yeah, please do. We have one more local who ordered a shirt, and we're trying to coordinate an exchange, but after that, I think we're going to go back to the old-fashioned way of having people order them from Threadless themselves.
Yeah, sounds like a plan. To our Canadian listeners, we know the Threadless store isn't a great option because of the exchange rate and shipping, so we're trying to figure out a solution that doesn't involve us stocking up on sizes and shipping them ourselves.
Yeah, because that's neither of us can afford that.
No, we're not making any money here, people.
No. Having lots of fun. Not making any money.
Definitely.
And finally, before I go on to my story, I wanted to really say a huge thank you to both Peter and Hannah, who contributed to the fundraiser I spoke about in the last episode. You guys, I can't tell you how much that meant to us, so thank you again. Your stickers
Definitely.
went into the mail this Monday, and again, we'd love to see a photo where they end up.
Yeah. So is that it for housekeeping?
I believe so.
So you had a story you were talking about earlier, The Thing.
Yeah, well, there's the story and then there's the thing.
Oh, okay.
So the story happened about a week ago. I was here in the studio working on my radio show. I got so into what I was doing that the time just got away from me.
Right.
And when I finally looked at the clock, it was past midnight.
Right.
Now, ordinarily, I wouldn't be here that late by myself. So instead of packing up my laptop, I thought, screw it, I'm just going to leave. I'll come get it tomorrow.
Right.
I headed for the door, but I was afraid to open it.
Ooh, how come?
Because the feeling of tension in the air was just so strong, this feeling of presence.
Yeah.
and it wasn't happy. It was the worst this building has felt in more than 3 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Because I've been here. I felt it before.
Yeah.
But it was really bad.
It was so bad. It
Wow.
was, when I finally worked up the nerve to open the door, of course there was no one there, but
Yeah.
I felt like I was in a pressure cooker. I felt like the walls and ceiling were closing in from every side.
Right.
And the tension was so strong, my teeth were involuntarily clenched.
Oh.
I locked the door and I got the hell out of here. But I
Yeah.
mean, I was literally walking backwards with my eye on the corridor behind me the whole time.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, I know how crazy that sounds, but I
No,
did it.
I get it. And so you got out of here and that was it?
Not really, no, because the
Oh.
next day I had a major mental meltdown.
Wow.
I was useless for a while. It was just like all the circuits in my brain were fried, and my depression and anxiety just exploded. It was like
no.
I couldn't focus on any one thing, and all of a sudden I was just overwhelmed by which was not really many things I had to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I was just suddenly overwhelmed.
Wow.
And then later that night, a friend of mine asked if I'd smudged myself after the experience here, and of course I hadn't. So I did that, and you know how I tell you I get chills when the sage actually clears something?
Yeah.
I got chills all over my body over and over.
Wow.
I passed that goddamn stick all over and around myself about 9-10 times, and every pass there was a different spot where I got the chill, like something was burning off.
Right.
And since then, the anxiety and depression have still come in waves,
Yeah.
but they're manageable, and they're smaller every time.
Huh.
I mean, because I'm generally a basket case of anxiety and
Yeah.
depression. It's just usually, I mean, because I don't medicate.
Yeah.
Maybe I should, but I don't.
Yeah.
And generally, I can keep it in control with exercise and diet.
Yeah.
But this was just, it was almost as bad as when the shadow person touched me.
I wonder what was going on here that night.
Well, that's the thing, because coincidentally, or maybe not, that was the night that you, me,
Yeah.
and one other person who spends time here
Yeah.
had the same experience at 5 a.m.
Yeah.
So I woke up sometime after 5 a.m. the following morning to the sound of my cat Bodie booking it back into the apartment through the open window.
Right.
Now, sometimes he comes through pretty fast, and it's kind of a small opening, so
Yeah.
he makes a bit of a whoosh sound as he comes
Yeah.
through, and that woke me up.
Yeah.
But he came through like a bat out of hell.
Wow.
And shortly after that, I heard, the best way I can describe it is like something huge breathing outside that window.
Wow.
It was a couple seconds long.
Yeah.
I can't explain it.
Yeah.
And it was gone. But it just sounded like, yeah, the best way I can describe it just is like this huge thing breathing. And the other person who lives about the same distance from downtown as I do,
Right.
they were woken up by what they described as something that sounded like wind scraping against the side of the house from back to front.
Right.
But they said the sound sort of morphed from wind to kind of weed whacker,
Yeah.
but was never quite either.
Right.
They couldn't really nail what it was. And it woke their cat up too,
Wow.
but not their partner, just like me. And because Nick is a light sleeper,
Right.
didn't wake up at all.
Wow.
And this thing was loud.
And I woke up around the same time and heard rumbling outside, like a very deep rumble. And
Yeah.
kind of went, oh, that was weird, and went back to sleep. But
So I don't know if it was some kind of tremor, but
Yeah.
I checked Twitter. No one else really mentioned anything. So I don't know what the hell it was. But it's interesting that 3 people who spend time here
yeah.
all encountered the same thing.
Wow. Weird.
Yeah.
This is a weird building.
Oh yeah, no, the experience that I had that night, as bad as it was, reminded me of the worst night I ever had here. I used to work for a company that rented this office,
Right.
and they don't rent it anymore.
Yeah.
The company I own part of rents it now, and we use part of it for the studio.
Right.
But back when the company I used to work for was on the second floor, we had half the second floor, and we were moving up here. The second floor was terrible. And especially at night, it reached a point where you didn't want to be there past 10:30.
Right.
It didn't feel
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Well, one night I was packing up, moving things, getting ready to leave. My friend was going to come meet me, and so I thought, okay, well, I feel a little more, because my friend is a complete dead end to anything paranormal.
Right.
And it seems like whenever he's around, generally it just dead ends. So I thought, okay, he's coming. I'm going to stay a little bit later, get a little more packing done, and he finishes work at 11. So 11 comes. And it's strong. I'm sitting in my office working.
Yeah.
It gets strong. And 11:30 comes. And I sent him a message. I said, "Where the hell are you?" Because it was getting really bad.
Yeah.
And he said, "Well, something's wrong with my car." He said, "I don't know what, but I'm in the parkade next door." And he said, my car's just not working.
Oh, wow.
I'm stuck here. I don't think I'm going to make it.
Wow.
So now I'm stuck in the office
Right.
with this really suffocating sense of, just pressure and,
Yeah.
and paralysis coming
Yeah.
down on me. And now my office, I sort of took from old fairy stories. You know, they talk about how iron doesn't really, they don't like that.
Right.
And I kind of thought, well, I wonder if that's across the board. So I started putting, I had a piece of magnetite, which has the highest iron content of any rock, above my door.
Right.
And I found that coincidentally those, or maybe not, those feelings I could feel it in the office, but they weren't like they were everywhere else. It was almost like that stone was a bulwark against it.
Yeah.
But still, I had to get from my office outside. And eventually what happened was I sat there again, just paralyzed by this until it ebbed like a tide.
Yeah.
I just felt it.
Yeah.
And I realized it would do that. It would go out and then come back in. So it went out. I just booked it.
Yeah.
Booked it, left the place, locked up. It didn't even set the alarm.
Wow.
Just ran.
Yeah.
And this other night was like that.
Huh.
And it kind of put me in mind of the you know, we mentioned The Thing. And The Thing is, a little while ago we were recording a show. I can't remember which one it was. I think it may have been L.A. We were talking about not liking the hour between 4 and 6 p.m.
Yes.
And we picked something up on the mics. Now, I'm going to play the sound for you. You may not hear it. I can hear it on my headphones with my computer. Ian can hear it when he uses his headphone, the good headphones.
Yeah.
But it seems to be something that if you have lousy headphones, it just gets lost in the noise floor. But neither of us really know what it is.
No.
And so I'm going to play that sound now. It's going to be a little bit loud. You're going to hear my voice. I'm so sorry. And just listen for, it's a 2-second clip. It's right in the middle. Listen right after the word liked.
Yeah.
It's in the background. And I'm just listen for that sound. And then when we come back, we'll talk a little bit about it. There's something about I've never really liked between 4 and There's something about I've never really liked between 4 and There's something about I've never really liked between 4 and Now, I think it sounds like breathing.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds like an exhalation. You think it sounds like...
I think it sounds like the start of a word, like who or what.
Interesting.
Or something, yeah.
And I've played it. One person thought it just sounded like electronic noise.
Yeah.
One person thought it sounded... Second person thought it sounded like breathing. Someone else thought it sounded like a rattling.
But, I mean, it's got to be something because it stood out to you and you've heard a lot of hours
Well, that's it, yeah.
of us recording. So if you hear something and you kind of go, what? It's got to be something.
And it was barely audible. It was it was almost, I got a sense of something being wrong more than I got a sense of hearing something.
Right.
And I had to go over it 3 or 4 times. Because it was just in the course of normal editing I found this.
Yeah.
So let us know what you think. Email us at ghoststoryguys@gmail.com. Send us a message on Facebook. Let us know what you think. If it just sounds like electronic noise, maybe you have experience with electronic equipment and you are familiar with the sound. But again, if it's unshielded cabling or something, we've never encountered this before.
No.
And again, I've listened to probably close to 50 hours worth of tape editing the show, so I'm really not sure what it could be. But yeah, and that's some of the strange goings on in the 1218 studio here.
Yeah, no, in the world of the ghost story, guys.
Yeah.
Something's always a little bit weird.
Yeah, true enough.
As always, please remember to rate us, review us, all those good things on iTunes, and share us on Facebook. Every little bit helps. We really do appreciate that, and it's so awesome for us to get those messages from people who are now saying things like, hey, I just found you guys, and I listened to all the episodes. So that only happens because of you sharing us, so please keep doing that.
Absolutely. Thanks to Pizzanta Music, as always, for our theme song. You can find him online at soundcloud.com/PizzantaMusic. You should also check out the band Hexagram. You can find them on Bandcamp, at Spotify at Hexagram, HEXX-agram. They're a group I've discovered recently because the creators listen to our show.
There you go.
So
cool.
They should definitely check it out.
Yeah.
My radio show is still going on every Wednesday at 8 p.m., Largely the Truth, on stokefm.com. We've had some audio issues the last 2 weeks. We can't figure out exactly what's causing them. So last week's show was pulled halfway through because the audio was so bad.
Oh no.
Yeah, it's the sound is perfect when I export it, and I listen to it on the computer. I listen to it again on my phone to make sure the audio is fine. There is some kind of buffering problem with the broadcasting software they're using.
Oh no.
But it only happens with my shows. So there's something I'm doing that's
weird,
an issue, but we just have no idea what that is. So hopefully we'll be back up and running by next week.
Good.
And I think that's going to do it for us.
All right.
We'll be back in 2 weeks with another episode. And
sounds good.
Until then, into the darkness we go. hopes when I find out we haven't been recording this whole time. Holy man!
I don't even. Where's this pressure coming from?
Yeah, now it's the pressure thing. Now I
Right?
got something I got to do.
Right?
Yeah.
I did it.
Oh yeah. Used quotes. Sucks monkey balls.
Please edit that out.
But no, yeah, this whole thing is being edited out. I had higher hopes when I first started writing this. Because I thought, oh, we got time. And then I got up to like 13 pages. I'm like, no, we don't have time for stories.
We don't have time.
My bread and butter.
Thanks for that little journey down pervert lane. That's because secretly you're an uptight little prick.
Secretly?
Well, I'm hopeful.
Man, I sure hope you act better than that in the skits I've written for us. Nope, that's porn. I haven't read it yet. Someone jacked my copy. Yeah, I accidentally left them on the in the lobby of the Patricia Hotel for an hour or half hour. I went back. It was that in the haunted hotels. I went back down, and Christmas one was gone.
No.
30 minutes. Not even.
Wow, the Patricia.
Yeah, well, fair enough.
I was using that for different purposes.
I'm sure you were.
Well, no.